Right. So I've been seeing a lot of people recently, especially those newer cubers, saying that Max Park is the greatest of all time. So I thought I'd take a look at this, I'll take a look at arguments on either side, and I'll see whether or not I agree with this. First off, let's look at Max Park's resume. He's been dominant in 4x4 through 7x7 since 2018. That's 5 years, half a decade of dominance in the big N/Ns. Now, it's worth noting, 2 of those years will have been during COVID, 2020 and 2021. There were barely any competitions because of the COVID-19 lockdowns, so that may have helped him, that may have hurt him, that may have not had any effect at all on his stretch of dominance in these events, but it's definitely worth noting. Note in the margins. The amount that he's cut off in terms of time and percentage is obviously larger for the larger cubes because there's more to optimize on them. He took off 25% off of the 7x7 mean, I believe. He took off 20 seconds from the 6x6 mean. He broke the sub 1 barrier for 6x6 single, which is pretty huge. And as you go down, less of a percentage was removed, the smaller the cube, which makes sense. Oh, and as a quick aside, check out these subscriber stats. Really? Come on, we could do better than that. Max Park is also the world's first back-to-back-to-back World Championship winner. So he came first in 3x3 in the World Championships in 2017, 19 and 23 because 2021 didn't happen, of course. Previously, the best consecutive performance at a World Championships was Felix Zemdegs' back-to-back wins in 2013 and 15, which now Max has one up. Max Park also has had multiple world records in one-handed and 3x3, although he doesn't really dominate these events as much as he does 5 through 7, so we'll say that he has very good stakes in 3x3 and one-handed, while dominating 5 through 7. And the end result of being so good at so many events over 5 years is that Max Park has 72 world records to his name. Not a bad resume. Alright, so let's look at his competition. How about Felix? How does Felix stack up? Felix had a goddamn stranglehold on 3x3, both single and average, mostly average, from 2010 to 2019. That is almost an entire decade of dominance. In fact, Felix was dropping world records from his second competition back in 2010, all the way up until the COVID lockdowns. That man had almost a decade of owning cubing as a hobby. As well as absolutely dominating 3x3, he had lots of world records in 4 through 7x7, and definitely did dominate one-handed, and even pulled out a 4-blind world record. The pool of events that Felix has gotten world records in is larger than Max Park's pool, and the pool of events that he was truly dominant in, I would say, is also larger than Max Park's pool of events. But that's not the most impressive statistic. We talked earlier, the larger cubes were the ones that were most optimizable. So that's why Max Park was able to take 25% off the 7x7 mean, and that's the largest improvement there's been. Felix Zemdegs single-handedly cut in half the 3x3 world record average. Felix brought down the world record 3x3 average from over 10. He broke the sub 10 barrier, the sub 9, 8, 7 and 6 barrier, and brought it down to a 5.53. Cutting out 25% of the 7x7 world record is very impressive. Cutting out 50% of the 3x3 world record is goddamn ludicrous. So, with a larger pool of events and a longer span of time, Felix Zemdegs has a higher amount of world records at 121. So where's the argument for Max? Well, the argument comes in progression, you see. As things go on, as sports or hobbies or esports develop, they become more difficult in time because more people get better at it. Max Park's competition is stiffer than Felix's ever was. I mean, this is especially true for cubing. You have to consider Max Park really started turning on, he turned on the turbo just before COVID, and cubing blew up during COVID. A massive, massive influx of new cubers. So, for Max Park to come out of COVID and still be so dominant is very impressive. Cubing really has grown massively, so the competition is way, way higher than it was back when Felix started his reign of dominance in 2010 and even when he ended it in 2019. The only question for whether or not you think Max is the GOAT is whether the sheer longevity and volume of records that Felix got is outweighed by how stiff the competition has become. do you think the records Max Park is getting are actually so much harder that they're more impressive than Felix having almost double, overall almost twice as much time, but the records were easier? Well, here's the thing I think is important to note. Felix is in his late 20s now, so he's past his absolute peak physical prime. Usually this is around esports retirement age. Additionally, he has a job, so he can't just sit and cube all the time, so he's focusing less on cubing, he's past peak performance physically, and he's still really good. Even with this, he's not obsoleted. His skills, he reached the finals in the World Championships for 5x5, 6x6, 7x7, and one-handed. He's been setting oceanic records recently. He's not bad. Like, he's still a top-level cuber. If you showed me his results and told me this was just some generic top-level cuber I hadn't heard of before, I would believe you. My personal opinion is that while Max Park does have stiffer competition and the world records are that much more challenging, because Felix is still able to hold his own at the top, I mean, sure, he might not be in contention for world records anymore, but he's still dropping continental records and getting to massive, massive finals. I mean, he's still evidently really good. I think Felix's run is more impressive. So for me, Felix is still the GOAT. But if Max Park continues the way he's been for the next 2 or 3 years, I could very easily change my tune. Feel free to explain to me in the comments why you feel the way you do about this argument, why Felix is the GOAT, why Max is the GOAT, why it's actually Lucas Etter, and I will read your comment and not reply to you.